God allows suffering. That is, if there is a God, there is suffering. That's an established fact of the world that we live in right now. Really quickly, I want to thank you for the support in the last video. Some of you that did, some of you that said I was in your prayers to switch sides. I'll just keep moving forward. The plan for today is just to look at arguments against why God should be is capable ethically of providing suffering to humanity or to the animals that he provides on this earth. And so I'll just get into it. Free will requires a possibility of evil. God gave humans free will because love cannot be forced. If humans can choose God, they must also be able to choose evil. Suffering is a consequence of that freedom, not God's desire. So this is a situation where I feel like in any hypothetical or any give and take in the natural world, if God is imposed on it, you have to realize that this is a system that God set up. It's true that with the system we have right now, if there is free will, there needs to be a possibility of choosing something negative for you or others, but that's only because that's in the system that God set up. He didn't have to make it that way. And also, I want to quickly say, I touched on this in my last video, but free will, I don't really believe in the same way that many people do. I think that it's defined as acting independently of your surroundings, which I don't think anyone has ever done in the history of humanity. I think we are all products of the variables in our environments, and we all act in that ways too. A really quick point, I'm just gonna say one more time, also from the last video, so I'll speed through it. An example of not being able to use free will is think of something that you really want really hard and then try not to want that, or vice versa. You can't do it. It's because your environment has led you to this conclusion in your mind that you want to do this or you don't want to do this. And if you can't choose to do the opposite of what your environment has told you to do, you don't have the free will to do so. That doesn't mean you have to act any differently after acknowledging that. It just means that you have to be aware everything you do is a product of your environment. Okay, moving forward. Suffering builds character. The claim is God allows suffering because it shapes people, building courage, empathy, perseverance, etc. Without adversity, virtues couldn't exist in a meaningful way. So it's true that we need the perspective of the bad to appreciate the good, right? Everyone can probably agree on that. The problem is there are many examples in nature, both the animal kingdom and the human kingdom, where suffering is going to be felt with beyond anyone's control, and people won't persevere from it. Like for example, your kid is diagnosed with leukemia and dies, right? Brutal, but you might be able to argue, okay, but you can learn from this, you can persevere, you can become a tougher person for maybe a kid in the future, maybe you can become a stronger character just overall. And that could be true for some people, but for others, that will send them down a rabbit hole. They will never recover from that loss, and they will become worse as a person mentally, physically. They'll stop taking care of themselves. And this isn't uncommon. For losing a child, it's devastating. In the system that God sets up, why would he include the possibility for people to not persevere from these actions and only feel the negative from them? All right. We live in a fallen world. Suffering exists because humanity is separated from God due to sin, Adam and Eve. Natural evil, diseases, and disasters enter the world as a result of that fall. The idea is that God created perfection, humans broke it, and then the broken world equals suffering. So with that last preface on like what this is enveloping as an idea, we need to focus on the fact that humans were created in God's image, right? God had full control over what humans would do, and God, being an omniscient, all-knowing creator, would know how they would act in the future. The idea that humans would break one of God's laws and therefore they would have to pay for it by like unleashing these diseases on the world is ridiculous because God would have known this was going to happen. And even if we were to give that idea some leeway and really play into it, is it really fair that two people, Adam and Eve, causing sin to enter the world would lead to devastation through illnesses and natural disasters that still affect us so harshly today? There are other ways in someone's own system that they can create to punish them, to punish people, or to teach a lesson than just devastation, especially in situations where people are taken before they're able to mature into an adult or even to able to learn their own lessons. Oh, we can't understand God's bigger plan. Our perspective is limited. This is this one never made any sense to me at all that anyone could possibly like argue this. It's true that in the theory proposed of there being a God, we wouldn't know what he knows because he's omniscient. He can see what's going to happen, what has happened, all of that at once. But that's really a cope, right? I mean, every answer has to have some sort of substantial response. This isn't a response to any debate. This is just saying we don't know, but we can't say we don't know because then we seem unknowledgeable. And that's a core idea, right? Nobody really knows. In fact, I hear a lot that atheists shouldn't be able to call themselves atheists because really they don't know. They just know that they don't believe in a God. Or even better put, nobody knows the universal truths of the universe, right? So therefore, atheists should really be called agnostics. That's closer because they think there could be a possibility of a God, but they just don't know which one it would be, or they don't know have any evidence for it in this moment. And I argue against that by saying if a Christian, because they have the same level of universal knowledge that I do, can say they are Christian and subscribe to this religion, I can say I am atheist with the same level of knowledge as them, and it's completely fair, a level ground between us. Suffering leads people towards God. Pain often motivates spiritual growth. See, this is kind of what I was saying earlier with like a child being diagnosed with leukemia. For some people, maybe that would lead them to the idea of God. Maybe it would harden their character losing a child at such a young age. I will say, though, there are many examples where that wouldn't happen. This person become disheartened, disconnected from society, and probably destined to damnation because they can't reconcile within themselves. It all takes it back to the idea that there are probably ways to teach lessons or to bring people to you if you are the natural creator, but it doesn't have to be so devastating every time. And if it is going to be devastating, at least design the system in a way that guarantees everyone to come to you after going through these devastating losses. But we just don't. Earth isn't the final destination. Compared to eternal life, earthly suffering is temporary. I don't even. Okay. If I were to go to you and break your kneecaps in with a lead pipe and then give you more money than it would cost to cover that, so you're richer at the end of the situation, it doesn't matter. You'd still be pissed off me for breaking your knees with a lead pipe, right? This is another one of those last minute we don't know, but we can't say we don't know, right? There's no way to prove this wrong because it's contingent on there being an afterlife, which nobody confirmed knows, despite what they tell you. Suffering can bring good out of evil. God doesn't create evil, but he can transform it into good outcomes, growth, unity, inspiration, and moral lessons. I disagree with that. Seeing as God has created anything and God has infinite foresight, he will know what leads to evil. And there's not always evil reconciled with good. There are always going to be serial killers that never get caught. Examples like that are rampant, right? Even the idea that with free will of God's creation, humans, they can create evil and it wasn't God's fault, it doesn't make any sense. It's the same thing as saying, like, God creates you with the opportunity of coming to him. And if you come to him in religion, you can be redeemed. You can live a happy afterlife. But he also knows if you'll never come to him. So he's creating you with the idea that you won't come to him and you'll be damned to an eternity of suffering. It's a nothing answer. Suffering is a test of faith. Okay. Another one of these. I want to really drive this point home, right? In a world of billions of people, there is um unquantifiable amounts of suffering going on constantly. There will be examples of people coming to God because of that suffering, maybe strengthening their bond with him, and there will be countless examples of people doing the exact opposite, losing their faith in God because of the suffering that he incurs. They will fall out of their religion and be destined to damnation of eternity or whatever, you know? Allowing suffering prevents a worse outcome. Sometimes God allows small or temporary suffering to avoid a greater suffering. Christians may say we simply cannot see the alternative God is saving us from. The end there you can kind of see is the same thing that I said earlier with the idea of we can't see God's greater plan. You just don't know. Say you don't know. Say you don't understand. That's better. In the system that God would create, you'd think he would be able to just prevent the greater suffering. He wouldn't have to cause minimal suffering to prevent macro suffering, right? Or, sorry. Yeah, micro to prevent macro. This almost implies that God isn't all powerful, right? Because if he was, he cared about his creations, he probably would have just had us live happy lives. Think about it like this. I'm stealing this idea, by the way, but look around us and try to see if you were to imagine we are a product of natural evolution through predators, through natural suffering, causes like natural disaster, illness, and we get to where we are today in the modern age after many, many decades, centuries, millennia, whatever. Would you expect the product to be one of a merciful God that cares for all of his creations equally? Or does it make more sense that we live in a world right now that consists of random suffering with no greater purpose or no divine being trying to lead us with a positive intention in mind? In my eyes, it makes a lot more sense that our current world is a product of natural, random evolution through different species, through different natural disasters. This has happened to us. And to hammer back on the idea of good being brought from the evil in the world by God, creating smaller evils to prevent the larger ones, that still means he allows evil into his kingdom, the one of his own creation. That means he created this world with the idea of there always being some level of evil, some portion of people being screwed over, which in his own system that he can create from the ground up with every specification in mind, a merciful God would not do that. Okay, I think we're at 16 minutes. I'll cut out probably like 9 minutes of this, or probably get like, oh, I wish God bestowed me the skill of mathematics. I'm so brain fried right now. We're gonna be at like 7 minutes. I estimate, or maybe I'm way off. But either way, I thank you for listening. This is chapter 2 of whatever I'm doing. I don't know how far it's gonna go. I thank you. Have a good day.